Right, so this video is about, in my opinion, how the best way is to fit a pair of our bespoke, extremely heavy handles, and they're unsprung. So with an unsprung handle, which most top quality handles tend to be these days, you're really reliant on the spring in the lock to support the handle. So it's really important that you have a very, very high quality lock that is machined and put into the door. So with our bespoke handles, they all come with these fixing plates. So you have like a male and a female, and you have these through bolts. It's vital that you use these through bolts, not really just to fix our handles. Through bolts should be used really primarily on every handle. So on all modern locks, this is a full case lock. Either side of the 8mm spindle hole, you get these two holes. They're 38mm apart. They're on every lock and they're there for a purpose. They're there for the through bolts to go through the lock out the other side. So you're basically bolting the fixing plates together rather than relying on screws that can maybe get pulled out. So now I'm going to demonstrate how you fit these fixing plates to the door. I've drilled the two holes either side. I've used like an 8mm drill bit. You don't want to drill these too small because you need some maneuverability when you're doing these fixing plates, which I'll explain a bit later. So the bolt through fixings that have come with these fixing plate, they are, really been made for a 54mm door. So this is 44, so this door's 44mm thick, so I'm going to need to cut these down a bit. So simply, you can cut them down just with a pair of these pliers. It's quite easy, cuts off. Now when you've done that, what you might need to do is sort of rethread it slightly. So what I generally do, put it in the thread, I'll screw it in. So really I'm rethreading it, because when you actually put it in, you want it to go through quite smoothly. So that's been rethreaded. So what I do is the side with these screw ends on these through bolts, I put that in first. So they're going in through the holes. The other side of this is the female receptor. So the through bolts are going to go into these. So you can see the through bolts here. So this can be a bit fiddly, but it's so important that you actually use these through bolts. I'm just locating that one. All I'm trying to do is just catch it into the thread, just a quarter turn. So that's caught. Then I get the other one in. So they're both now connected, and obviously they're connected, but they're loose. So I'm now going to tighten it up, but not fully, which I will explain later. So they're now connected, but there's a little bit of movement, which is what I want. So with these unsprung handles, it's really important that when the spindle goes in, there's no tension on it. It's got to be perfectly straight. So we don't want it being sort of forced this way or forced that way. It's got to be perfectly straight. So I put the spindle in. You'll note actually on this spindle, it has a hole in it. So this says this way up. So this hole's at the bottom, because when you put the grub screw in, it goes through the thin part of the wall and pierces it and holds the grub screw firmly into the spindle by going through into that hole. So this rose screws onto this. So there's a thread here and there's a thread here. So I locate this on here. I tighten up the rose. Because I've left some slack in it and haven't completely tightened it up, if the spindle's a little bit out, the rose, when it catches the thread, will pull it into line. So that's caught it, so I can tighten this side up. So that's on there. It's operating properly. So now I'm looking at this side. So what I need to make sure of is this spindle is perfectly in line and right in the center of this central circle. If it's out, you can maneuver it. So you get it perfectly in line. Once it's in line, this handle should go on and the rose will catch the thread. So it's caught, tightening them up, check the handle, make sure it's functioning properly. So it's fine, it kicks back. So now I'm happy with that. I'll take this off and I'll just tighten up those 3 bolts. always do this by hand. The worst thing you can do is use, these power drills. They'll over tighten it and they will basically mace the screw threads. Just whatever you do, it just needs to be done really manually to make sure you don't over tighten it. So they're tight. Now the handle goes on. This has got to be tightened right up. The last thing is the grub screws just need to be tightened. So you tighten them up and then you can feel when they pierce through the spindle, if it's this type of spindle, it'll loosen, but they're in there. So this handle, it's working perfectly, exactly as it should.